This is dedicated to the homies that was down since day one. Welcome to Drop D.
Welcome back, guys, to the absolute gold standard in JFK assassination study and research in on-demand podcast form. This is Quick Hits, episode number 40. That's right. And my name is Doug Campbell, and with me, as always, is my dear friend and co-host, Mr. Rob Clark. What's up, Rob? What's going on, buddy? What's going on, my man?
Hey, Doug, what's happening? Been a while, my friend.
Been a while. We decided to take a holiday break. Now, you guys are actually, you're getting episodes in. They're getting episodes in consecutive calendar months. We just took a holiday break. Decided to chill out a little bit.
Yeah, it's much needed. You know, we're very busy.
We're very busy, and lots happened. Lots of stuff happened. Notable in the world of JFK assassination research and study, did it not? We're going to talk about a little bit of that, a lot of that, actually, I think, in this episode. Well, it's good to talk to you, my man. Christmas was awesome for me. What about you?
Yeah, glad it's over. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Glad it's over. Well, hey, later on in the show, I'm going to tell everybody about an awesome Christmas gift I got from my son that is of what we do, JFK assassination study and research. Pretty cool. But, Rob, I believe we're going to let you have the floor first for our first discussion topic of the year, sir.
And hey, well, Doug, before we get started, hey, can you ask Momo turn me up on my headphones a little bit?
You sound beautiful. Get on with it.
You heard the man.
Screw you too, Momo. That son of a bitch. How much we paying that guy?
Absolutely nothing. He's free. He's an intern.
Well, no. There you go.
Get what you pay for.
All right. That's right. All right, Doug. So, in December, we got the latest document release and all this. And there's a little bit of hullabaloo, a little bit of spotlight shine on the JFK research community. And, you go and look in some of the Facebook groups and the dedication forum, and, you see people still arguing about the magic bullet and the Zapruder film and the Macula's fingerprint.
A lot of hullabaloo. What'd you call it? Hullabaloo. A lot of that in the mainstream media, and hullabaloo. Liberty Lobby, hullabaloo.
Yes.
We're going to talk about some of that. Play some of this mainstream media reaction to the events, to the things that happened in December. Later in the show, yes, sir. A lot of stirring of some pots going on.
Yeah, and I think for those paying attention, you've seen Jefferson Morley on about every news outlet, and he's been on every podcast known to demand except this one, which is fine. But a lot of people, we didn't ask. So there you go.
Well, now, hey, that's not necessarily true. That's not necessarily true. You know that, Alan Dale and I are pretty tight with the Assassination Archives Research Center, and he's pretty tight with Morley. And I've sent Morley just really, the nicest of emails several times, and even Alan's like, yeah, I've talked to him. I've told him he needs to do the Dallas action, but I can't he just ghosts me. I don't know. Maybe he's heard, maybe ill winds blow from Canada as far as that goes, and he's heard some bad things. I don't know.
Or he'd rather just do 20 podcasts that have like 10 listeners apiece that have nothing to do with the JFK assassination. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Well, that's always possible.
People, when you're talking to them, don't, they know that he pushes this George Joannides, the George Joannides this and George Joannides that. It's the most important thing with the Kennedy assassination in 20 years. But a lot of people just don't know what that means. They don't know anything about Joannides. They don't pay to get behind a paywall and a Substack to find out. But we're going to tell you today a little bit, and what for you is basically the genesis of George Joannides coming out of the RRB and Jefferson Morley getting in. We're going to tell you exactly who George Joannides was and what he was like. Doug, are you ready to find out?
Yeah. He was. I have studied quite a bit about the gentleman myself. Lately, or in the last few years, and his positioning was significant. There's no doubt about that in my mind. Where he was at, there is some smoke there, I think. Now, I think there's some smoke there in regard to the agency's knowledge and possible use of the Oswald figure, but that does not mean complicity in the planning and the execution of the assassination of John Kennedy. They are not the same thing, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and we'll get into it a little bit of what Joannides was up to and how it correlates to the assassination. But in the memorandum going back to October of 1996, this is a memorandum to Barry Harrelson, the CIA, from Manuel Legaspi of the ARRB staff. And it says, in recent weeks, members of the RRB staff have attempted to locate and or ascertain the disposition of monthly operational reports for certain Cuban exile groups, which in some cases allegedly worked with the CIA during the years 63 and 64. Our initial survey of the JFK Segre collection and the microfilm reels indicates monthly operational reports do exist for one group in particular, the DRE, the Directorio Revolucionario Estudiante, whatever that is.
The DRE, yep.
But that reports for the time immediately surrounding the assassination of President Kennedy are not present in the collection. To the extent that this is possible, you and your staff please assist us in identifying, if they should exist, monthly operational reports for the time frame March 63 to March 64 for the following exile groups: the DRE, the Cuban Revolutionary Council, and the Movimiento Recuperación Revolucionario, the MRR. The DRE, the CRC, and the MRR.
You're getting pretty good at that, man.
Thank you. I've been brushing up on my Mexican.
It's interesting.
Sorry.
Yeah, interesting. We're both doing better with the Spanish than we are pronouncing English today.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. And then I have from another letter to Barry Harrelson a little later in October 96 from Jeremy Gunn, who is the General Counsel, Associate Director for Research. It pertains to issues with the HT lingual program. It says, it is the review board staff's understanding that CIA continues in its search for AT lingual records that will provide an oral briefing on the subject. It is also our understanding that some HT records have been located, but they have not yet been made available to the review board. Recent and additional information requested we have discussed with you. Operational reports for the Cuban exile groups. Review board has been unable to locate the collection monthly operational reports for the DRE, CRC, or MRR for the period between March 63 and March 64. Please advise us whether these records exist and when we may review them. Moscow. CIA has been asked to search for information regarding Moscow as discussed with Shell Combs on October 24th, 96. Tape. CIA has been asked to search for additional information regarding a tape as discussed with Irene Marr on October 24th, 96. Please let me know of any inaccuracies in this letter or any suggestions you have. Thank you for your help and cooperation. Sincerely, Jeremy Gunn. So they are badgering the shit out of the CIA about these records for the DRE, CRC, and why is this important? Okay, so now to go back to 1963, okay, we have the CRC, okay, and Sergio Arcasha Smith was in the same building as Guy Mister, detective agency.
Right.
Okay, so that's important, okay, especially if the CIA is funding CRC operations, okay? And also, with the DRE, have Carlos Bernier and his buddies who are part of the DRE. And we all know about the interaction between Oswald and Bernier.
And that's why Joannides is important. and that's what Rob's saying.
Correct.
Because Joannides was the guy handling the very people who scuffled with Oswald when he was in New Orleans. And how many contacts total did Oswald have with the DRE that we know of?
At least 3 or 4. You know, we have him in Bernier's store, hand him his Marine manual, offering to help him train exiles. And then they hear he's handing out pamphlets on the street, so they rush out of their store and go down and confront Oswald on House Street.
Right.
And, get in the scuffle. They all get arrested. They get out. And then they go on the radio together and have a quote-unquote debate.
Rob, ironically enough, I have some a couple of things I wanted to share with you on Joannides relating to this new file dump from the Miami Herald regarding the DRE.
Yeah.
Let me throw it. It was the Miami Herald from the article, Did the CIA use Cuban exiles in a plot involving Oswald, by Nora Gomez Torres. And says here, I'll just share a little bit of it, Rob, if I may. Most of the 44 documents that are being sought relate to George Joannides, the chief of the psychological warfare branch of the CIA's Miami station at the time. And they interview a guy, Jose Antonio Lanuza, 83, a former member of the Directorio Revolucionario Estudiante, a Cuban exile anti-Castro organization active in the 1960s. He told the Miami Herald that he was hoping the remaining documents would confirm a long-held suspicion that he and other directorate members were used by Joannides, the organization's case handler in Miami, to create and later spread the fake narrative that Oswald was a pro-Castro sympathizer. According to Lanuza, it says, Rob, and several other accounts in historic records, Oswald, a former U.S. Marine, and it says, anyway, they mentioned the brawl, and he says that he and others got phone calls from George Joannides right after the assassination, and he told them to wait 1 hour, or right after Oswald was apprehended, rather. And before you talk to anybody in the media, wait 1 hour. He said he waited 58 minutes and made the call to a reporter. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's what's so significant about it, and this is the way Alan Dale explained it to me, and I'll pass it along to everybody else as far as Joannides. He was the guy that was handling the Cuban exiles that kept coming in contact with Oswald. Right? According to this guy, he's on the phone with everybody, right after Oswald's arrested. Wait an hour before you talk to anybody about this Oswald character, and what we know about him. And then we come to the House Select Committee on Assassinations and where he came in there.
Yeah.
The way it was explained to me, again, he was brought in to liaise between the investigators and the CIA as far as seeing classified material, right? And at one point, the investigators said, "Hey, Mr. Joannides, we need to know who the case officer for the DRE was in 1963." And Joannides says, "That's a good question. I'll look into it." And it was him.
So to piggyback on that a little bit, next up we have a fax transmission from the ARRB to Barry Harrelson at the CIA, CI, HRG from Manuel Legaspi again. And this is now May 16th, 1997.
Okay.
Subject DRE monthly operational reports. Comments. The op reports reside in the following DRE folders in the FK microfilm. 25, 25, 26, 27, Reel 26, folders 2, 3, and 5. The following is a breakdown of the op reports I was able to find. RB in the collection. May, June, September through November of 1962. 1964, May through December. 1965. January through March, May, July, and through on to December. 1966, January through July, and October through December. 1963, none.
Zero. That's actually a familiar story, you know?
Yeah, no operational report DRE for 1963. From the CIA to the ARB in the operational files. And he says, we would like to make this a complete series, but have a particular interest in the reports for December 62 through April of 64. And so that's very interesting that they didn't send any over from 63 whatsoever. It's like they were wiped out.
Hey man, that happens
because
that
happens. All right.
I remember one time I actually did a show on some documents, and it was a collection at the Mary Farrell Foundation. They were on one big file, and what they were informant reports on the movements of Cuban exile commandos Felipe Vidal Santiago and Pedro Diaz-Lanz and the Diaz-Lanz brothers, right? Every month, Frank Sturgis would get together with his case officer, who at the time was Bernard Barker, another future Watergate burglar, right? And he would inform, he was telling the CIA how he was trying to ingratiate himself with Santiago and the Diaz-Lanz brothers and offering to help on operations. And the whole time he's telling the CIA what these guys are doing, right? And it's like every month, dude. Same shit, Rob. Every month there's a report until October of 1963. And they don't occur again until March, like just before Santiago goes on the raid to Cuba that gets him captured and killed. And that whole swath from October to March of 64 are just gone. Just gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How convenient.
How convenient. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so all this is very... Doug, back then, the CIA is giving these organizations up to $50,000 a month in operational capital. And of course, they're going to want to know where their money is going. I mean, $50,000 in a month is a lot of money in 1963, my friend.
Yeah, I wonder what that is adjusted for inflation. How much was it? 50 grand?
Probably. Yeah. Yeah, my guess is you're looking at $500,000. Maybe I'm overinflating it a little bit. I don't know, but it was, they're spending a lot of money to fund these groups and to support these Cuban exile trainings and movements and propaganda and whatever else they were doing down there.
That equals, Rob, I looked it up real quick. That's $484,962 a month.
Yeah, so
$500,000.
about $500,000. I was right. Yeah. All right, so fast forward to December of 1997.
All right.
To Mr. John Chiara, chief of the Historical Review Group Center for the Study of Intelligence at the CIA, regarding the status of CIA responses to assassination record and review board's requests for additional information and records. Dear John, I'm writing to follow up on our phone call today and to convey my serious concern about the status of CIA's responses to the review board's request for additional information and records. Although the several requests and many others have been answered in part, a significant number of requests have not been answered at all, including some that were made more than 2 years ago. On many occasions, we have been assured that responses will be forthcoming, only to have promised dates come and go with answers. It is now extremely important that these requests be answered promptly so that we may conduct a proper follow-up if necessary. The issue can now identify as being of the highest priority below by double asterisks, and we request that they be answered within the next month. We request that the remaining requests answered by April 1st, 1998. So they're giving them, they want certain requests within a month, and then they're giving them about 4.5 months to answer the rest.
Yeah.
From the time of this letter. So the remainder of this letter, first, a listing of the formal requests for information and records, and second, a listing of the informal requests for information and records. Please let me know if your understanding of any of the following points differs from ours so that we can resolve any potential discrepancies. So they say, as identified more fully below, the issues are CIA-1 organizational material, CIA-6 cables and dispatches, CIA-13 back channel communication, CIA.IR.3 HT lingual documents, CIA IR04 disposition of Angleton files, CIA IR07 Claude Barnes Capehart, CIA IR15 electronic tape from Mexico City, CIA IR-21 DRE monthly operational reports, and CIA IR-22A files on Clay Shaw and Jim Garrison.
Clay Shaw and Jim Garrison.
Yeah. So here's a couple of things that they're waiting on. I don't know who these people are, with the exception of some of them.
Okay.
Byron B. Morton Jr., ARRB awaits documentation. Marie Cheatham, ARB awaits documentation. Paul Garbler, ARB awaits documentation. Verna Dean Brown, ARB awaits documentation. George Stanley Brown, ARB awaits documentation. Howard Gubler, ARRB awaits documentation.
George Stanley Brown, that sounds familiar.
I don't know if that's the guy from Brown and Root. I don't know.
I don't know.
Here's some names that you have heard of. Dwayne Novell, ARRB awaits documentation. Ed Butler, ARRB awaits documentation. Inca, ARB awaits documentation. And Permindex, ARB awaits documentation. CIIR-20, the Monster Plot. This request is complete. Then it says in March of 97, the review board requested for the CIA to search for monthly operational reports for the Cuban Exile Group, DRE, for the period of 60 through 64, with particular emphasis on reports from August through November of 63. While some of the reports for this period already exist in the JFK collection, others, including the reports for December 62 through April 64, are missing. We understand the CIA has done some research on the missing reports. We request a comprehensive memo on the creation and disposition of DRE records be provided for the board. We request that the CIA work to cover the identity of, quote, Howard. The CIA officer mentioned the DRE files, and we request his full name and Office of Personnel file provided to the board. Do you know who Howard is, Doug?
Who is that, Rob?
I believe that was one of George Joannides' cover names, I believe.
That was, absolutely. That's what the guy in the story I was reading from a while ago, that's what he knew him as, Howard, Mr. Howard. It's a common name in all this.
So,
That's a common name in all this.
Yeah. So now we finally get, Doug, a response from the CIA about these monthly reports for the DRE. The DO has checked headquarters records for files referenced in memo and for files on the crypts cited in this document and searched for and other cables or dispatches cited in this document as previously explained. The crypts in, I don't know what this is, having researched. The dispatch was apparently written in haste and in truncated language without correct knowledge of the operational crypts for the specific operations in Mexico City. The crypts dispatch are the more generic crypts for tell-tap operations, not for the then current operations in Mexico City. So they're basically saying, oh, our CIA was messed up. They were doing it very quickly. They didn't get the right.
Right.
For their Mexico City wiretap operations. So basically, what you think you know, you don't know.
Right, exactly.
And we can't tell you because we don't know either.
We have no clue. Yeah.
Next up, concerning the monthly operational reports for the DRE, which is where we're interested in here, it says the gap in the DRE records has been researched. The explanation is that the reporting lagged because the DRE apparently would not take CIA directions or instructions for their operations, and CIA thing was reduced. Not take away, reduced. Further complicating the situation was the personality clash of the DRE official and CIA case officers. DRE records identified and searched have been located in the CIA's JFK microfilm files and have been discussed with Manuel Legaspi of the ARRB staff. The CIA has not been able to identify Howard as mentioned in the DRE files. Knowledgeable case officers from other regions have explained the name could be a routing indicator from a covert officer for ensuring that something gets to the CIA. The name does not track as a pseudonym, registered alias, nor the true name of any case officer involved in the DRE operation at the time of the date on the documents it's marked. Hey, like that.
Huh. That's interesting.
Deny.
Yeah. It did right down to the last breath, man. Right down. That's what's going on now. They're just denying everything. Everything. Still going on.
Yeah.
60 years later.
Let's see. Another one sent this one to Jeremy Gunn from Harold Senate at the CIA. And this is, again, monthly operational reports for the DRE. Request for subject information is further refined in your 18 December 97 letter to the chief of the Historical Review Group. Specifically, you asked about the DRE monthly operational reports and the identity of, quote, Howard, the name to which the DRE appears to have sent correspondence. The agency has searched appropriate databases and files for the missing, quote, missing reports. In addition, the responsible offices have researched the questions contained within your request. Based on these rather extensive efforts, I advise you as follows. The missing operational monthly reports. The searches conducted by the agency failed to locate any of the reports that appear to, quote, missing. December of 62 through April of 64 in general, and those for August and November of 63 in particular. It should be noted that during the period in question, major policy differences between the agency and DRE developed. This was particularly true of the latter years of association because the DRE would not take directions or instructions about a number of operation matters, insisting on engaging in activity the agency did not sanction. These differences This caused the agency to reduce the level of funding for the DRE. It also replaced the officer designated to deal with the DRE. Then, about the same time, the monthly operational reports trailed off. It seems probably these events are linked and that reporting in the form of such monthly reports simply stopped. The DRE files we did find are also within the sequestered JFK collection, and they have previously been made available to Manuel Legaspi. So there's another answer from the CIA that now they apparently they took away the case officer dealing with the DRE and installed somebody new to deal with them because they were listening to Howard, and these monthly operational reports just stopped, despite they were giving them hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. Doug, does that make sense?
That makes no sense. Wow. I've never read any of that. Never read any of that information.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
And that's what they're still hiding from us. Trying to hide from us.
Yeah. So now we're up to March 3rd of 1998, right? We're closing in on the deadline here.
Right.
This is Jeremy Gunn from who was the special assistant for research and review of the ARRB, concerning the case officer for December of 62 to April of 64.
Right.
So the ARRB is starting to zero in on this guy and trying to figure out who he is. And it seems that they have found their man. So
okay,
in response to the ARRB informal request for additional information and records concerning CIA IR-21, which was the CIA provide access to the Office of Personnel file for Mr. George E. Joannides.
They've got a name now.
Personnel file for Mr. Joannides, and for the period of 61 to 64 and 78-79. Mr. Joannides appears in documents in the CIA Sister collection under his pseudonym Walter Newby. Okay.
Yep, Walter Newby. Now
you
and I talked about Newby, that name last year when that you remember that when that book came out, Hank Albarelli's
Who in Dallas?
That posthumous book, and that was kind of one thing that was being touted by those that were out there pushing that book, and the Scorzani thing was, well, this guy, this Pierre Lafitte, had the name Joannides written in his notebook when he would not have known the name Joannides. He would have known Mr. Howard, or he would have known Walter Newby. Now, had he had Walter Newby in that notebook, it'd have been a whole different thought process there, right? But that's come up before, that name. And I think that and Mr. Howard were the two pseudonyms he was known by, right?
During the period of December of 62 to April of 64, Mr. Joannides was assigned as a covert action officer at JM Wave, serving, as deputy and then chief of the station's covert action branch. During this time period, he was the case officer for the Cuban Exile Group, DRE. The descriptions, duties, and accomplishments in the personnel file are very general and contain no specific reference to his relationship with the DRE. There is no mention of the assassination of John F. Kennedy in the file, and no information relevant to the assassination in the file.
It's all been excised.
So no indication
Mr.
Joannides. Yeah, there is no indication Mr. Joannides may have used by the name Howard during his contacts with the DRE, although personnel files typically reveal this information one way or another. And during the period of May 78 through January 79, Mr. Joannides was assigned to work for Scott Breckenridge, the CA's principal coordinator to the HSCA, as a focal person to keep track of HSCA requests, particularly the Directorate of Operations.
I believe Scott Breckenridge was eventually rewarded for all of his efforts. Didn't he end up becoming the CIA's chief historian at one point? I think so. He's all over the paperwork.
Probably.
That guy.
In this role, Mr. Joannides developed and maintained a log and records of HSCA requests and CIA responses and handled the day-to-day follow-up to HSCA requests. Several performance evaluation reports from the 62 to 60 and a memoranda from Breckenridge on Mr. Joannides' duties during 78 to 79 time frame were designated as assassination records and are being processed for release. Right? So we can jump ahead. So it was about this time, okay, that Morley started getting involved in things, right? And I'm talking, we're about like up into 1999 now, okay? It's hard to freaking years ago almost now, Doug. I mean, it's crazy.
It's been a long time, dude. It's been a long time. It doesn't seem like it, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't seem like it was that long when Oliver Stone's movie was released, right? Does it? Not that many years ago when you think about how many years it's been. No.
Yeah. So we have a letter to Tom Crispell and Mark Mansfield from Jefferson Morley, December 10th, 1999. He says that at the suggestion of John Pereira, I would like to have an on-the-record briefing on JFK assassination-related documents concerning George Joannides, an agency employee from 51 to 79. Blakey has also expressed an interest in such a briefing. While I have no objection to taking portion of our conversation off the record, attributable statements in response to these questions. Number one, Fade Escalante, retired Cuban Intelligence 2 official, has said members of the DRE were involved in a conspiracy to kill Kennedy. At the time of Kennedy's death, this group received funding from the CIA to the tune of $50,000 a month. Does the CIA have any comment on Escalante's allegations? Will the CIA make public all records referenced answering this question?
Ooh.
Number two.
Did they get a response?
Yeah. Well, we'll get there. Number two, will the agency immediately account for and public its records pertaining to George Joannides and his actions and interactions with regard to the DRE in 1963? Will it immediately account for and make public all records kept by Joannides during his work with the HSCA in 1978? Number three, Nora Slatkin, executive director of the CIA, affirmed in September of 1998 under oath that the agency had made public all of its assassination-related records. Was Ms. Slatkin aware of the story of George Joannides at the time of her affidavit? I look to hearing from you at your earliest convenience. Sincerely, Jeff Morley. Okay. So now we have a fitness report from the CIA did concerning George Joannides, and this is a performance evaluation, basically, of what he was doing. So, and this concerns the period of April 63, which is prime, to March 31st of 64. So this is a 1-year performance evaluation. And so let's see, for their performance evaluation, it's kind of like a report card, basically, Doug.
Okay.
Where they give you a W for weak, an A for adequate, P for proficient, an S for strong, and an O for outstanding. Okay. So, specific duties, and this it says his current station is JM Wave, and he was DDP SAS ops officer. He was GS-14 grade.
Deputy DDP, Deputy Directorate of Plans, Special Action, or what did you say? SAS.
SAS, yeah.
Deputy Director of Plans, yeah.
For JM Wave. Okay. He supervises and manages the state's covert action branch, which employs 24 staff officers and 24 contract employees. And for this, he was given a S for strong. He serves as senior case officer for a project, the DRE, which involves distribution of printed propaganda, production of radio programs, and the development of political action programs. And for this, he was given a strong S, another S.
There you go.
Now, Doug, if things weren't going well between Joannides and the DRE in 1963, it would be reflected in this report. And for him to receive second highest performance rating here for his dealings with the DRE tells me that all that other stuff is bullshit.
Yeah.
It seems to me like he was doing a good job and getting the results that they wanted.
Absolutely.
Next
I mean, they rewarded him. I mean, the dude, when they brought him out of retirement to be that gatekeeper for the House Select Committee on Assassinations, when that was done, he got a medal.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'd say the S's reflect how they felt about him, truly.
Yeah. Another duty, maintains liaison with the FI, CI, and PM chiefs in order to ensure the station's covert effort is appropriately supporting the missions of the other branches. And for this, he got a P, which is proficient, which is right in the middle.
Right in the middle.
Not good or bad, just he is doing what he's supposed to be doing.
Could be better. Be better.
Yeah. Diverse. Conducts production and security review on the station's covert action operations. And for that, he was given another P, which is right in the middle again. His overall performance in his current position, Doug, and this is taken into account everything about the employee which influences his effectiveness in current position, says performance of specific duties, productivity, conduct on the job, cooperativeness, pertinent personal traits or habits, and particular limitations or talents based on your knowledge of employees' overall performance during the rating period. Place letter in the rating box corresponding to the statement which most accurately reflects his level of performance, to which Mr. George Joannides on June 8th, 64 received a S for strong, which is the second highest that he could have gotten.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
in the narrative comments section, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say he was very good at doing exactly what they wanted and needed him to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the narrative comments section, they say, subject is a hardworking, dedicated, and effective officer who has proven by performance that he can accomplish assigned operational tasks in allowable time limits. The period covered by this fitness report represents subject's initial agency exposure to those first echelon. I don't know. Yes. Liberty Lobby.
Hullabaloo.
And management responsibilities which are implicit in a branch assignment in a station that has 24 employees. Subject responded to the challenge of the first echelon supervisory responsibilities in an exemplary manner. Subject managed a branch that had a budget, Doug.
Yeah.
So,
how much? Say that
millions
again.
of dollars.
Had a budget of who? How much?
2.4 mil.
2.4 mil. Yep.
Yeah. These funds were judiciously spent printed propaganda, white and black radio programs, and on political action operations which were implemented via labor, student, and professional groups. Subject has the knack of judicially blending quality with quantity, and in this melding effort, subject reflected cost consciousness and effectiveness, use of personnel, space, equipment, and funds.
Well, George Joannides. Yeah, George Joannides, in modern day terms adjusted for inflation, you said it was 2.4 mil. So modern day terms, this guy was the manager of covert action to the tune of $21 million a year, roughly.
Yeah.
In today's terms. So
and 20 employees.
Yeah, not someone to be taken lightly. An operational pro, it seems. I mean, after all, it wasn't until the 90s we learned that he had been part of the hoodwinking of the House Select Committee on Assassinations. So, yeah. Good spy. Good at what he did.
Subject has a distinct flair for political action operations and can translate policy directives into meaningful action programs by all of his assets. Subject has the ability to delegate authority and to appropriately fix responsibility with those officers whom he supervises. In the management field, Subject's only discernible weakness is a tendency to be abrupt with subordinates. It is believed that this minor shortcoming will be overcome with the acquisition of added experience in the field of personnel management. On balance, therefore, Subject's overall performance as a supervisor and as an intelligence officer warrants a 99 rating as strong.
There you go. His only weak point was he was a little too. He was a little too all. How do you be too all business? Because when I hear that he was abrupt with subordinates, I hear he was a no bullshit guy. All business.
Right.
It would seem strange that they would see that. Yeah, exactly. That they would see that as something not good. Is surprising to me, you know. But hey, what do I know, right?
So it seems to me from this report, contrary to previous oral disposition from the CIA, that the DRE and George Joannides were not getting along, and the DRE was not listening to him. That doesn't seem reflective in this report at all.
No, it doesn't. And, you know, there's a history of that. Look at Alpha 66 in the CIA. Their relationship was not what some among us would paint it to be. You know, but the report that you've got there, it's just glowing. Just everything is working out just fantastic. You know, they can't think enough. They don't. You know, they can't say enough good about him and about the job he's doing with the DRE.
Now, here's another fitness report, and this is for the 6-month period of January 63 to July of 63. And this pertains basically his official position title was Ops, and his specific duty number 1, he's Deputy Chief of Branch, handling in absence of the chief all aspect political action and psychological warfare activity, and supervising 24 case officers and clerical personnel. For this duty, he received an O, which is outstanding, Doug.
There you go. I never get those.
Nope. Number 2, his duty number 2 was be case officer for a student project involving political action, propaganda, intelligence collection, and a hemisphere-wide apparatus. And for this, Doug, he was given an S for strong, second highest. Okay,
second highest.
And what they say about this guy is reference is made to paragraph C of subject's previous fitness report dated January 10th, 63. During the period covered by this report, subject has done an excellent job in the handling of a significant student exile group, which hitherto had successfully resisted any important degree of control, which tells me that Joannides had whipped them into shape, and he had them exactly where he wanted them, doing exactly what they wanted them to do.
Yep.
Under subject's direction, an exile teachers group reached a high level of effectiveness in the propaganda field, and it was then turned over to another case officer. has effectively terminated unproductive operations in the prop field, one magazine and a newsletter, and is building up station radio capability directed at the main target. His high professional standards, complete comprehension of the problems faced by the station, and strong urge to win in that struggle with the opposition make it a distinct pleasure to see him take over as chief of the psychological warfare branch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Reviewing officer is familiar with subject's work, based primarily on discussions with the subject and subject supervisor, general observation of subject during the past year, and frequently reviewing his completed work. Subject is an extremely hard-working and dedicated individual with an ability to develop rapport quickly with his contact. Subject works long hours, including weekends, without complaint available when there's a job done. Subject has demonstrated those qualities of management, initiative, drive, and devotion to duty are necessary to perform the many and varied tasks of a fast and continually changing situation.
Shit, I'd hire him.
Officer concurs with the rating officers overall. Right?
Yeah,
the reviewing
man.
officer concurs with the rating officer's overall evaluation of strong, and
sounds like the kind of guy you want.
So
you want as your number 2, you know?
Yeah.
Sound like a dependable
so I think,
type guy.
There's a reason why they don't want us to see. They don't want us to see George Joannides' monthly operational reports for the year of 1963 for damn good reason.
I think it would be very, very incriminating. Not so much to Joannides, but to those anti-Castro operations as a whole, as to how much they really knew about Oswald. And it might lead to who got the idea to use him. You know, exactly. And I don't want to hear Alan Dulles, people.
And Joannides, no. And Joannides was not necessarily. I mean, he was part of the JM Wave station, but he was in New Orleans in 1963, working directly with the DRE and Chris Bernier and all those guys, and CRC with Sergio R. Smith and all those guys, and another group who I've never heard of before. But,
you know, the fracas in the street. The fracas
direct interaction. Yeah.
I was going to say the fracas in the street that General Walker's friend, Mr. Martin, just happened to film with his little home camera. Joannides would have known about that within...
That screams propaganda, dude.
Yeah, but, I mean, let's say it wasn't a setup. All right? Let's say, for example, it wasn't a setup. He still would have known about it within minutes, certainly within the hour. And he would have been sending out all the memos, all the fields. What do we know on this Oswald guy? And he would have had every, you know what I mean? So the obfuscation surrounding him and the DRE is inexcusable, absolutely inexcusable. It's like you say, no damn wonder they don't want to. No wonder they don't want us to see that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all I got on George Joannides, folks. And just to wrap it all up, I did come across something I'll be covering in a future Lone Gunman episode. There's a report from New Orleans that David Ferry was, detained for handing out Castro literature.
Really? Oh, wow. Yeah. I cannot wait to hear that.
Somewhat like Oswald was doing.
Now, wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, I mean, you have this guy in charge of all these operations. I mean, it's just screams of some kind of CIA involvement. When you look at what they were involved, when you have the TV interview, the radio interview, this is all psychological operations and propaganda, folks. 101. You have to be stupid not to see it. So question now is, will Jefferson Morley be able to get these 44 files on Joannides that he wants? And we'll just have to stay tuned.
We'll just have to stay tuned, and I want to see him too, myself. Rob, thank you so much for that awesome presentation on the CIA's George Joannides. Now, I think we've got time for one more topic before we take the break, I believe.
Hey, Pocahontas, I got to hit the head. It's time to play some promos. Chop, chop.
Oh, well. Momo's got to go to the... Momo has to pee, apparently, so I guess we got to play some promos. Let's do that. Guys, we'll be right back right after this. Hey, Doug here, taking a minute to give you a heads up. An all-new issue of our favorite history periodical is dropping, guys, and that is issue number 11 of Garrison, the Journal of History and Deep Politics, from Midnight Rider News Publications at midnightridernews.com. That's writer with a W. Not a passenger on a horse, but one who commits language to paper. Midnight Writer, WRITER, news.com. This all-new issue, number 11, features a ton of articles from the realm of history and deep politics, such as John Brisson introducing us to the Finders, Ed Tatro on Lyndon Johnson and the Silver Star scam, William Weston on the CIA and the Texas School Book Depository, Jefferson Morley on Greenwald, Trump, and the JFK files, and of course our friend Larry Hancock on the RFK assassination. Also, Midnight Rider News founder S.T. Patrick on the independence of Tulsi Gabbard, and much, much, much more. That's issue number 11 of Garrison, the Journal of History and Deep Politics, from Midnight Rider News Publications, available at midnightridernews.com as of October 14th. Order your copy now. Go on, get. And we're back here on part 2 of Quick Hits episode 40. My name is Doug Campbell, and with me is Rob Clark. Hopefully you will notice an improvement in the audio quality coming from Rob's end. We think we had an internet connectivity issue, but hopefully we've got that squared away and worked out, don't we, Rob? And he disappeared.
And can't hear Doug.
You had me. You had me there for a minute, Rob. Dude, that sounds way better. So we're good. All right. And now that we've got Rob's audio squared away, it's time for me to talk for 20 minutes. So, funny how that works out. Maybe it's the deep state not wanting all that George Joannides info out there in such a clear, concise manner, Rob. What do you think?
Sounds like Alan Dulles is up to old tricks.
He's up to his old tricks, the bastard from the grave. Rob, on a lighthearted note, my first topic of the show, I would like to tell you about you and the listeners, about a kick-ass Christmas present that I received from my son Harrison, dude.
Oh, pray tell.
Pray tell. An amazing flea market find, as a matter of fact, by my son Harrison. And they are newspapers. Dude, I know a lot of newspapers, as a commemorative thing in later years, did reprints of their stories, relating to certain historic events, right? Well, and there are those out there that are papers from the time of the assassination, but these are not reprints. And the reason I know that they're not reprints is because they were stamped by the man who saved them. You
they were stamped, not reprints.
They were not stamped, not reprints. No, sir. But up in the corner, you know how back in the day, for like envelopes and shit, everybody had like a rubber stamp, right, that had their name and address, and then they had one one of those that slides that you change the date. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, 144 King Street. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, a gentleman named Earl W. Hudnall, who lived in Pontiac, Michigan, He stamped his name and address and the date he saved the newspapers. So right there, they're authenticated. Like the newspapers that he saved some from the weekend of the assassination, right? And then in September of 1964, he saved newspapers from that weekend of the release of the Warren Report. But he, like the ones that are
nice.
Yeah, the ones that are from November 22nd through November 25th that he saved, they're all stamped November 26th. Like, he made sure to stamp them. These are mine, and I saved them on this date, is when I put them away. And he did the same thing with, it was October 8th of 1964 is when he stamped his name and the date on the newspapers from the time of the release of the Warren Report that he saved. And he put them away.
Oh, very cool.
Very cool. And my son found them at a flea market. The guy that he bought them from had several booths at this flea market, and he buys foreclosed on storage units. And this is just something that was in there.
Nice.
Dude, he doesn't know, who had the unit or anything. They were just in there. And like I said, they're from the weekend of the assassination and the release of the Warren Report. Now, the newspapers he saved from the weekend of the assassination were the Pontiac Press from Pontiac, Michigan, from the day of the assassination. Excuse me. The Detroit Free Press from the next day, Saturday the 23rd. And he also saved the Detroit Free Press from the 25th. And he saved the Harrisburg, Illinois Daily Register from Monday, 11/25. And I have all of these, and they're in pristine condition. The two that he saved from the Warren Report were the Pontiac Press, September 28th of 1964, and the Daily Register, again, from the same day. And, I had a really good time looking through these, except for the smell, Rob.
Musty Marina underpants.
Oh, my Lord, dude. You wouldn't believe it, the smell. Now, but they're really musty. They're really skanky mold. Yeah. Now, they don't have any visible mold on them. They just had that smell. And as I was going through them, I looked through them Christmas morning, and then again, preparing for the show. You can't stand over them and read them for over like 5, 7, 10 minutes at a time. You just got to go off and get some fresh air. Ooh-wee. But I wanted to read you, if I could, just a little sampling for you and the listeners of these old newspapers from the time.
Hell yeah.
There's really nothing. There was really nothing in the ones from the time of the Warren Report that really jumped out at me. Like, hey, you should read this. But a few from the time of the assassination. This, here's an example. This is from the Pontiac Press from Pontiac, Michigan, the afternoon of the assassination. It reads, Dallas, Texas. John F. Kennedy, 36th President of the United States, was shot to death today by a hidden assassin armed with a high-powered rifle. Kennedy, 46th, lived about an hour after a sniper cut him down as his limousine left downtown Dallas. Kennedy died at Parkland Hospital, where his bullet-pierced body had been taken in a frantic but futile effort to save his life. Lying wounded at the same hospital was Governor John Connally of Texas, who was cut down by the same fusillade that ended the life of the youngest man ever elected to the presidency. Police ordered an unprecedented dragnet of the city. They believed the fatal shots were fired by a white man, about 30, slender of build, weighing about 185 pounds, and standing 5 feet 10 inches tall. The murder weapon, report police, was a .30 hunting rifle.
Well, that's not right.
Well, it turns out to be wrong later anyway, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that I was nowhere near 185 pounds soaking wet.
Nowhere near. Nowhere near. And that doesn't even match up with the first reports that were coming out of Army intelligence to Dallas, which was 165 pounds. That's another 20 pounds there.
Nor the use of a citywide dragnet.
Yeah, for real. Haven't heard that before.
No.
This was a little interesting to me. Shooting stuns state capitol, Lansing, Michigan. News of the shooting of the president electrified the great and small figures of Michigan's government today when it reached the Capitol building. It's almost unbelievable, said Secretary of State James Hare, who sat with most of his office staff around a radio. A dastardly act, said Attorney General Frank Kelly. A reporter in the press room of the House of Representatives was talking to his Detroit desk when a shocked expression came over his face. The reporter, Jim Robinson of the Detroit Free Press, turned to a reporter at his elbow and said, "The president has been shot. He's wounded." "What?" exclaimed the others. It seemed everyone in the building knew at once. Michigan State University President John Hanna, who had met with President Kennedy just 9 days ago, was preparing for an MSU Board of Trustees meeting. He told a reporter, "This comes as an unbelievable shock. The president was so vibrant and young-seeming and alive when I saw him last."
I hope so. Shit.
But this story is from the Pontiac Press. Rob, the next day, Saturday the 23rd, the headline, "Second man arrested in assassination." Second man arrested. See, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, because he didn't get arrested, but they did question him pretty hard. Yeah, they all but accused him, right? According to him.
Not until like midnight,
yeah,
the night before. So by the time they wrote this story, he might have been still in custody.
Says Dallas, Dateline Dallas, police arrested a second man today and questioned him at length about the shooting of President Kennedy. He is believed a friend of Lee Harvey Oswald, who is, charged with murdering the president. Police Chief Jesse Curry said Oswald has readily admitted to be a communist. Now, he always denied that, didn't he?
That's not right.
Yeah, that's not right. The second man arrested was not immediately identified by police or others. Justice of the Peace David Johnston said he issued a search warrant earlier today for the second man's home, but the man allowed a search without protest. Did they issue a search warrant to search Frazier's home? Was Frazier's home ever searched that you know of?
Yeah, it was. That's where they found this 303 British Enfield rifle.
They're talking about Frazier here, I bet.
Yeah.
Good test results, and then that's all they mentioned about the second man arrested. Then it goes to Oswald insisted he is not the assassin, but an officer said today, "I think we got some good results from the paraffin tests on both Oswald's hands." And this is on the 23rd.
That's a lie.
That's a lie. That's exactly right. But this is quoting a Dallas police officer. "We got some good results from the paraffin tests on both of Oswald's hands." And this is reported in the Pontiac Press the morning of Saturday the 23rd. What say you, Rob?
Yeah. After he's at work all day, moving boxes around with ink on them, and after they fingerprinted him, sure, you're going to find a little bit of nitrile residue on his hand, sure. But as far as his cheek and wherever else they tested him was negative, which if he had been firing a rifle and looking through a scope, his face would have been right beside the rifle and would have likely been subject to some ejecti of residue from the bullet. And that turned up negative. But his hands, did come back with some nitrile residue on it. But this is after he's working all day, and after they fingerprint him, which the ink is going to have the same nitrile residue as gunpowder. There's no differentiating the two. So wouldn't probably hold up in a court of law, though.
Probably not. I got one more little tidbit of a story here, Rob, from the Harrisburg Daily Register, Monday, November 25th. The headline, Lee Oswald's book is closed. The world will never know what was on his mind. Police closed the books today on Lee Harvey Oswald, and the world will never know what was in his mind. He was shot to death as President Kennedy's assassin by a self-appointed executioner before a nationwide television audience. While the martyr president was being buried in Arlington National Cemetery, mourned by the world, the communist Castro sympathizer, there's that DRE propaganda again, we spoke of earlier, accused of slaying him, lay on a cold marble slab in a morgue, disgraced. He died with his lips sealed. He took to the grave with him the reason Kennedy was killed, if, as police are convinced without a doubt, he was the assassin. The 24-year-old pro-Castro Marxist was being transferred in handcuffs from city jail to a maximum security cell at the county jailhouse when Jack Ruby, a one-time Chicago street brawler and owner of a Dallas striptease nightclub, leapt from a crowd of newsmen and police and with a curse jammed a snub-nosed 38 caliber pistol into Oswald's side and fired one shot. And they quote DA Henry Wade here, Dallas District Attorney, filed murder charges against Ruby. He said a second assassination doesn't help justify the first one. I will seek the death penalty for Ruby even if he pleads guilty, because shooting a handcuffed man deserves the death penalty. Now, what the fuck does that even mean? A second assassination doesn't help justify the first one. He's got that shit backwards, doesn't he? Or, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Shooting the assassin doesn't justify a second assassination, is what he means to say. A second assassination doesn't help justify the first one. Ruby wasn't trying to justify Kennedy's assassination. Didn't make any sense. That just hit me. It's like, well, wait, what the fuck does that even mean? I think he's got that all fucked up there.
Yeah, that's poor grammar. Yeah, fire that motherfucker.
That's some Yogi Berra shit right there. You know. Malaprops. Isn't that what they call that stuff? But, yeah. All right, Rob. But anyway, yeah, thank you again to my son Harrison for these awesome historic artifacts, because that's what they are, man. They're pretty neat.
Very cool.
I tell you what was neat was looking in the ads, because this was right around the time of Thanksgiving, right? The Howard Johnson, the restaurant at the Howard Johnson Motor Lodge, $1.25 turkey dinner that weekend.
Oh,
yeah,
nice,
dude. $1.75 all you can eat buffet.
Oh,
18 rounds of golf with a cart. Guess how much?
$5.
94 cents.
What?
Yeah, no joke, dude. There was a country 94 cents. There was a coupon. I'm not even kidding. And the country club, it costs $94 a year to join. And that's with like full pool and club and golf course privileges and all that shit.
Damn.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Ads for a Chevy 2 and a Chevy Nova from the 64 model. And what was really cool about these newspaper ads for these cars, they weren't photographs. It's hand-drawn and painted art, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Really cool. Like full page, you know.
And the DRE was getting $50,000 a month.
And the DRE was getting $50,000.
That's a lot of rounds of golf, bro.
Dude, that's a lot of Chevy Novas in 1964, man. Yeah. A bunch. Okay, man. Lord. Now. Okay, Rob, before we get to emails, I'm afraid that's enough of the lighthearted there, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to take a swig of this Coke Zero and get a little opinionated May I?
Get your boxing gloves on, son.
Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to retort.
Oh, well, allow me to retort.
Allow me to retort. This is a segment that we don't do often, but we do when there's something we need to say. Don't we, Rob?
Yep. We pull it out when needed.
Pull it out when needed.
That's what she said.
Yeah. Okay, Rob. Hang on. Let me turn the music down. The December 15th files dump. We talked about this earlier in the show. The reaction to it in the media. We had a lot of media bump, didn't we? And have had a little bit in the last month as far as our cause, getting the files freed, seeing the information, trying to get to the truth of the assassination of John Kennedy. Had a little bit of traction lately, haven't
absolutely. We? Yeah, a little bump.
Came from the files release, the Mary Farrell Foundation a lawsuit against President Biden and the federal government. And as we know, this dump on the 15th was not what it should have been. Not what it should have been. And like I said, if we had a lot of attention for about 5 minutes in the mainstream media, it seemed even the most pre-programmable and apathetic talking heads on cable, they now found a few minutes to share, Rob, in our, what do you call it, righteous indignation over the continuing withholding of the files, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to play you a few samples, if I may. And what this retort, Rob, don't get me wrong. It's not against the mainstream media for the most part. It's a retort on a tone within the research community that I have picked up on from blog posts, from news stories, from things like that, and from online forums as well. But I want to play you. We're going to play some sound bites now. The mainstream media on just a few, 2 shows, as a matter of fact, 2 shows on Our Thing. The first is from MSNBC's Morning Joe with Joe Scarborough, Mika Brzezinski, and a guest named Mark Caputo. Rob, and I think they kind of, what you talked about in the first half of the show, the George Joannides issue. I think that Morning Joe did a good job here of explaining and boiling down the Joannides issue. Tell me if I'm wrong. Here we go, guys. This is from Morning Joe, I think December 16th, the day after the release.
Mark, let's start with you. It seems like they released all the records we needed to see, except the records that we needed to see. Like, for instance, the shadowy CIA figure that ran the covert Cuba operation who met Oswald 4 months before the assassination. They decided not to release those records. What gives?
Right. The guy's name is George Joannides. And under the 1992 law that Mika just referenced, it created the structure to have a warehouse, a JFK collection under the National Archives. Well, the documents that this nonprofit group that sued to get all of these records released, the Mary Farrell Foundation, had found in separate sort of reporting and snooping around, there are probably about 44 records related to George Joannides that never made it into the JFK collection. So as a result, when the Biden administration's like, woohoo, we've released all these records, look at all the transparency, the reality is that there are these records about George Joannides' pro-Castro, or better said, anti-Castro group, that somehow came into contact with Lee Harvey Oswald 4 months before the shooting. Lee Harvey Oswald somehow went to Mexico, somehow made contact with the Cuban and Soviet embassies and built up his name publicly as a pro-Castro sympathizer. And so immediately after the shooting, all of a sudden the news media and the public had all this access to Lee Harvey Oswald sort of being a communist and, again, a pro-Castro sympathizer. And all of a sudden, at the time, right after the shooting, there was this belief that, oh, my God, it's the communists who did it. It's the communists who are behind it. At the same time, there was an operation that was being launched and considered by the Pentagon called Operation Northwoods, which was designed to stage a spectacular false flag terrorist attack in the United States to blame on Castro. And lo and behold, here you have Lee Harvey Oswald. A lot of suspicious stuff, a lot of strange stuff. And the other aspect of George Joannides, whose identity and role in all of this only came out as a result of this law in 1992. Only in the 90s did we find this stuff out. By the way, he died in 1990. Joannides had been appointed after his retirement, pulled out of retirement by the CIA, to be a liaison with the House Investigative Committee in 1976.
Now, there's a lot of stuff that got in there that you just don't hear on the mainstream media. Mr. Rob.
Yes, sir.
Oh, there you are. That was your cue.
Oh.
That was your cue to expound in your brilliance, sir.
No, I think they did a good job explaining all that and stuff about Joannides. And I'm not sure where they the tidbit of him meeting Oswald 4 months prior to the assassination. I'd be interested in finding that out, but because that's news to me. But yeah, other than that, yeah. I mean, I think they did a good job of kind of explaining things a little bit to some people who are not familiar with the case.
That's right. Yeah, they even got Northwoods in there, so good job, Joe.
Yeah.
Here's another little soundbite from Morning Joe. Same show, guys. Same show.
We have been hypercritical of conspiracy theories on this show for years. I mocked and ridiculed truthers who claimed that George W. Bush 9/11 was an inside deal. This is all leading to a but. But let me say this, since I learned this in DBT. And at the same time, there are so many questions that lingered over this. My parents, who were never conspiracy theorists, they never bought the Oswald lone wolf story. Other people I've known, smart people, have never bought that theory. Oswald saying he's a patsy. A couple of days later, he's gunned down by a bar owner, Jack Ruby. Again, so much of it just didn't make sense. My question to you is, Michael, as a historian, first of all, can you shed some light on who killed JFK if he was a lone wolf? But more importantly than that, shouldn't they release every last document 59 years later, unredacted?
Go, Joe. Hell yeah. He's fired up, Rob. Rob missed his cue again.
Exactly, yeah. No, I mean, they should. I mean, it's ridiculous to here we are 59 years later, and it's just more kicking the can down the road, as we call it, and just be transparent at this point. I mean,
that's right.
Look, I'm not. If there's any smoking documents out there, they've been destroyed by now. They've been deep six. You're not going to find them. They don't exist. At this point, the CIA is playing cover their ass. They don't want to acknowledge any possible association with Lee Harvey Oswald before the assassination at this point, because of the allegations that can be made from that, I would assume.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to know that the CIA, in particular Joannides, and people in the J.M. Wave Station were privy to Oswald's interaction with these anti-Castro exile groups in New Orleans in 1963. I mean, there's got to be something in his reports, his monthly reports, that they don't want us to see. And
they don't want us to see, well, once we get in those reports and we start tracing who was doing what, where that might lead when the people that he was giving all this money to was on the ground, right? When they were on the ground, what are they doing?
Right.
where might those operational leads take us? And I think that's what that's probably a giant concern to those who are still trying to keep the truth from us to this day. Now that was a sample of Morning Joe. Now, you didn't hear anything there that was untrue, did you, Rob?
No, I don't believe so.
No, I mean,
just that one thing at the very beginning, that allegation Joannides met with Oswald 4 months before the assassination. I don't know where that comes from. Never seen or heard that before. But if it's out there, I could be wrong.
I think he may have been saying that the DRE met with Oswald and Joannides ran them. I think that may have been what he meant. But I mean,
maybe so. Yeah.
But now you can bitch and moan and complain about how the mainstream media treats this issue, and many will listen to those sound bites of Morning Joe, and they're immediately going to say, well, they're complain because they're late to the party, I guess. Which I guess there's a legitimate beef in that, but you didn't hear anything that was bullshit, right? You didn't hear anything that was untrue in what Joe Scarborough was stating and what his guests were stating there. It was accurate. And just
an anecdote to all this, Doug. The thought just occurred to me that, once Oswald was either fired or quit from the William Riley Coffee Company in July of 1963, he wasn't actively seeking employment. Okay.
Yeah.
Until allegedly returning from Mexico.
Right, and that's when he started looking for work.
Which doesn't make sense, because every time Oswald either didn't have a job or had a shitty job that he wanted a different one, he was always looking for other work. He never went without a job for any extended period of time, and you're talking, at least 3 or 4 months here where he didn't have a job and wasn't looking for one. So what does that tell you? I can tell you what it tells me.
What's that?
That he was getting money from somewhere.
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
Something, and it wasn't just unemployment. You know what I mean?
No. They gotta pay him a little something. Well,
yeah. Whether he was informing to the FBI about what was going on, or whether he was part of this propaganda thing that was going on from with the DRE.
Well, maybe some of that $50,000 a month was helping him pay some bills and expenses. There you go. Well, that's an example of some of the bump, as it were, in mainstream press coverage that our thing got, Rob. But we had more coverage. See, and then the more mentally stunted among the mainstream media got in on the act. And that's kind of what I'm retorting to. And some in our community, some in our community are sucking up to this mental midget, is a little disappointing. It's more than a little disappointing. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking about none other than Fucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson. That's right. Tucker Carlson over there at Fox News. Fox News. Rob, that's who we're talking about, buddy. Okay. I want to play some sound bites. Here is the obviously a victim of a childhood cranial injury, Carlson, attempting to cleverly point out what has been obvious to folks like us, Rob, for decades.
A lone gunman murders the President of the United States, and then, less than 48 hours later, that lone gunman is himself murdered by another lone gunman. What are the odds of that? It's one thing if you get struck by lightning, rare but possible. But if every member of your family also gets struck by lightning all on different days, you might begin to suspect these are not entirely natural events. But, replied the U.S. government, they are. This bizarre chain of killings was all entirely natural. So less than a year after the JFK assassination, the Johnson White House released something called the Warren Commission Report. And the report concluded that while their motives remained unclear, both Lee Oswald and Jack Ruby had acted alone. No one helped them. There was no conspiracy of any kind. Case closed. Time to move on. And many Americans did move on. At the time, they had no idea how shoddy and corrupt the Warren Commission was. It would be nearly 50 years before the CIA admitted under duress that, in fact, it had withheld information from investigators about its relationship with Lee Harvey Oswald. But even then, at the time, before that was known, the government's explanation didn't seem entirely plausible, and some people started asking obvious questions about it. It was at that point, as Americans started to doubt the official story, that the term conspiracy theory entered our lexicon. As Professor Lance DeHaven Smith points out in his book on the subject, the term conspiracy theory did not exist as a phrase in everyday American conversation before 1964. In 1964, the year the Warren Commission issued its report, the New York Times published 5 stories in which conspiracy theory appeared. Now, today, of course, the term conspiracy theory appears in pretty much every New York Times story about American politics. It's wielded, now as then, as a weapon against anyone who asks questions the government doesn't feel like answering.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, listeners, what he's doing there is he's fostering a false camaraderie. Tucker Carlson is called a conspiracy theorist by the New York Times because he spent weeks in 2020 saying that the Italians used Jewish space lasers to zap voting machines in Arizona and a lot of other bullshit. Okay? That's why they call him a conspiracy theorist. Okay, now first he spends a while, again, stating the obvious. Then, Rob, the Fox News bullshit train rolls out.
Well, today we decided to find out. We spoke to someone who had access to these still hidden CIA documents, a person who was deeply familiar with what they contain. We asked this person directly, did the CIA have a hand in the murder of John F. Kennedy, an American president? And here's the reply we received verbatim. Quote, the answer is yes. I believe they were involved. It's a whole different country from what we thought it was. It's all fake. It's hard to imagine a more jarring response than that. Again, this is not a, quote, conspiracy theorist that we spoke to. Not even close. This is someone with direct knowledge of the information that once again is being withheld from the American public. And the answer we received was unequivocal. Yes, the CIA was involved in the assassination of the president. Now, some people will not be surprised to hear that. They suspected it all along. But no matter how you feel about or what you thought about the Kennedy assassination, pause to consider what this means. It means that within the U.S. government, there are forces wholly beyond democratic control. These forces are more powerful than the elected officials that supposedly oversee them. These forces can affect election outcomes. They can even hide their complicity in the murder of an American president. In other words, they can do pretty much anything they want. They constitute a government within a government, mocking by their very existence the idea of democracy. As cynical as we have become after 30 years of watching government officials ignore the voters who employ them, we were shocked to learn this. It's not acceptable. Americans have trusted their government less with every passing year since the killing of John F. Kennedy. Maybe this is why. And people have known this for a long time. The people who knew would include every director of the CIA since November of 1963. And that list would include Obama's CIA director, John Brennan, one of the most sinister and dishonest figures in American life.
Okay. Now, I played you that to tell you this. If you actually believe that Tucker Carlson really has a source within the CIA that has read who read those files, knows what's in them, and told him that, then I got a hell of a book about a secret team by a retired Air Force colonel to sell you.
Yeah.
Okay? Tucker Carlson's job, his job is to sell outrage. It is his job to stoke his followers with daily outrage. That's his job. Tucker Carlson does, listen very carefully, guys, it's bullshit. He does not have a source in the CIA who read the still withheld files, right? Because bullshit is what he does, right? And now over at the Deducation Forum, there's even a thread dedicated to, quote-unquote, protecting Tucker Carlson's CIA source. How do we get his source into witness protection? He'll do 157 years if his name is ever released. How fucking gullible are we? All right? Before y'all get all giddy about it, you need to remember, in September of 2020, in September of 2020, a federal judge dismissed a slander and defamation suit against Tucker Carlson because she believed Carlson's lawyer's argument. Their argument. Carlson's lawyers, Fox News' lawyers, was very simple. Their argument in court was that any reasonable viewer, the defense's words, should know that Tucker Carlson, what he does is not truth, but, quote, exaggeration and non-literal commentary. The definition of non-literal from the Cambridge University is this: not understanding or intending a word or phrase in its basic meaning. What does that mean, Rob?
I have no idea.
If it's coming out of his mouth, it's bullshit.
It's a lie.
It's bullshit. It's literally been proven in a fucking court of law by Tucker Carlson's own fucking attorneys, people. Exaggeration. He lies about things he knows nothing about. He lies about things he knows nothing about. And now there's a certain legal eagle in the JFK, in the research community, who's appeared on his show, right? And his rationale is, here's his rationale. He's used the phrase, this new oversight committee, right? This new oversight committee that's being run by the Republican House of Representatives now. He's actually used this legal eagle in the community. Yeah. He's used the phrase, hijack that committee for our own purposes, right? He said in forums, that he is deep in the trenches with the new Republican-led oversight committees on this issue. Deep in the trenches. Rob, has anybody paid any attention to what's been going on since the new year in the new Republican-led House of Representatives? It's a goddamn clown show. It's a goddamn clown show. All right? It's who's on the new oversight committee? You know who's running it? Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, Scott Perry, Jim Jordan. It's as if the GOP held a job fair at a convention for people who were dropped on their goddamned heads as infants, is what we got going on here. This is who they want to hitch our wagon to. All right? It's been proven in a court of law, people, that Tucker Carlson tells lies. Okay? His own people proved it. And suddenly everybody's all agog because he has a clandestine source in the CIA who's read the new files and the CIA killed him. Well, Rob, let me tell you what. He proved it in a court of law, dude. But just 2 days ago, my friend, just 2 days ago, Tucker Carlson proved it in real time on live TV. That if it's coming out of his mouth, what did you say earlier?
I don't know.
It's bullshit.
It's a lie. Yeah.
Dude, it happened again. He did another segment again on January 19th, bro. Less than 48 hours ago from this recording session. He did it again. And again, it's all bullshit. And I think I know who his source is. I tracked him down. I have found Tucker Carlson's source, guys. He did a segment, Rob, 2 nights ago on the 19th on Watergate, the JFK assassination, Richard Nixon, and Richard Helms. And wouldn't you know it, I woke up the next morning, 5 a.m., Dim Giudinio had already posted it over there in that forum. But here's the thing, guys. Tucker Carlson got everything wrong. Now, take a listen to this, and then you and I and Rob will correct his dumbass.
Richard Nixon believed that elements in the federal bureaucracy were working to undermine the American system of government and had been doing that for a long time. He often said that. He was absolutely right. On June 23, 1972, Nixon met with the then CIA director Richard Helms at the White House. During the conversation, which thankfully was tape recorded, Nixon suggested he knew, quote, who shot John, meaning President John F. Kennedy. Nixon further implied that the CIA was directly involved in Kennedy's assassination, which we now know it was. Helms's telling response? Total silence. But for Nixon, it didn't matter because it was already over. 4 days before, on June 19th, the Washington Post had published the first of many stories about a break-in at the Watergate office building. Unbeknownst to Nixon and unreported by the Washington Post, 4 of the 5 burglars worked for the CIA.
Now, do we want to play that again? Did you guys pick it out? Did you pick it out?
Yeah.
Did you hear it?
Oh, I heard it. I heard a couple things.
I bet you did. I bet you did. Now, what did he get wrong?
The date, for one.
The date.
Yeah, for the Who Shot John comment.
The Who Shot John tape. Nixon and Helms. Okay. Now, Tucker Carlson said it happened on June 23rd. Now, what is it about that date that jumps out at you, Rob?
Well, wasn't that supposed to be about the smoking gun tape?
That's exactly right. June 23rd is the date of the infamous smoking gun tape. Upon its release, that forced Nixon to resign. The June 23rd, 1972 smoking gun tape. Guys, the Richard Nixon, Richard Helms, Who Shot John conversation took place on October 8th of 1971. Not June 23rd. That shit, it's like Watergate 101 for people like us who study what our friend Ted Rubenstein calls parapolitics, right? I mean, that's fucking remedial Watergate. It's what that is. The Who Shot John tape was recorded on October 8th of 1971. And guys, don't believe me. Go to the website, nixontapes.org. It's right there. That's when it happened. Yeah, you can look at this thing here. It's got that conversation. There's a table. You can click on the PDF or the MP3 of the conversation at nixontapes.org. Okay? It's right there. And that's when it happened. It is, as a matter of fact, the conversation that Tucker Carlson erroneously says was recorded 4 days after the Watergate break-in or whatever. What the fuck? Oh, my God. June 20. That is conversation, guys, number 587-007A and B. All right? The June 23rd smoking gun conversation was conversation number 741002. And Carlson fucked that up twice. All right? Now, this legal eagle that says that was on Carlson's show, he made a comment in that forum that because they were talking about like, oh, who is Tucker's source? Who is this source that told him the CIA killed JFK? And Rob made this comment. He says, hey, look, I've been on the show. I have the trust of his producers. Am working on getting the ID of the source now. Okay. You mean his producers that let him go in front of 34 million people and make that basic fuck up right there? Those are the ones you want to throw in with Haas. Really. Now, Carlson lied also as well. Nixon did not say to Richard Helms, he did not say to Richard Helms on the tape, I know who shot John, guys. That is a lie. That is a lie. That is not what Nixon said, and don't let anybody tell you that's what Nixon said. He did not say, I know who shot John. Again, Carlson's fucking lying. I'm going to read now because, Rob, guess who corrected him? Somebody corrected him. Corrected Tucker Carlson on all this. Guess who?
Nice.
Guess who it was?
Who's that?
Jefferson Morley.
Oh.
9 years ago. In 2014, this is from the 2014 JFKFacts.org website, article called Nixon Asked CIA About Who Shot John Angle. Again, this is from 9 years ago. Morley writes, when the CIA director arrives, talking about the conversation at the White House, Nixon offers some typically awkward and forced small talk about baseball player Ted Williams and then gets down to business. He says he wants to address the sensitive issue of the documents he is seeking. And again, guys, this is October 71, 8 months before Watergate. He assures Helms that he fully supports what he calls the dirty tricks department. I know what happened in Iran, Nixon told Helms. I know what happened in Guatemala, and I totally approve of that. I know what happened with the planning of the Bay of Pigs. The problem was not the CIA. My interest there is to solely know the facts. When Helms didn't say much, Nixon says, first, this is my information. Second, I need it for a defensive reason, for a negotiation. And he says this, the who shot John angle. Is Eisenhower to blame? Is Kennedy to blame? Is Johnson to blame? Is Nixon to blame? Etc., etc. It may become, not by me, a very vigorous issue, but if it does, I need to know what is necessary to protect, frankly, the intelligence gathering in the dirty tricks department, and I will protect it. I have done more than my share of lying to protect you, and I believe it's totally right to do it. He said the who shot John angle. And then right there would be a colon if you were writing this out, Rob. He didn't say, I know who shot John. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. But guess what, Rob? I think I know who Tucker Carlson's source is.
Oh, do you?
I think so.
I'd love to know.
But now, before I get to that, we got to remember, that was Jefferson Morley writing in 2014, 9 years ago. But to Tucker Carlson, this is stunning new info. But I think I know where he got it. Rob, guess who published an in-depth 4-paragraph, when I say in-depth, I'm being a smartass, guess who published a 4-paragraph blog post on this very subject on January 14th of this year, just 5 days before Carlson's segment? Guess.
Let's see. Does he have a giant tattoo of Nixon on his back?
Ding, ding, ding. You are the winner. Just 4 days, just 5 days before this earth-shattering Nixon Helms bullshit-laden segment by Tucker Carlson, 5 days before that, Roger Stone published a 4-paragraph blog post titled, Nixon Threatened to Reveal CIA Involvement in JFK's Murder. Now, this is why I think Stone is his source. First, I want you to listen to a little bit of the last soundbite again, okay? And then I'm going to read the first paragraph of Stone's blog post from 5 days before. Here we go. This is Carlson.
Richard Nixon believed that elements in the federal bureaucracy were working to undermine the American system of government and had been doing that for a long time. He often said that. He was absolutely right. On June 23, 1972, Nixon met with the then CIA director Richard Helms at the White House. During the conversation, which thankfully was tape recorded, Nixon suggested he knew, quote, who shot John, meaning President John F. Kennedy.
Now, this is Roger Stone's blog post from 5 days before. A stunning, long overlooked Nixon Watergate era tape shows Richard Nixon warning CIA Director Richard Helms that he knows of CIA involvement in the murder of John Kennedy. I know who shot John. This shocking new tape depicts Nixon increasingly besieged by Watergate, but unaware that at least 4 of the Watergate burglars were still on the CIA payroll. It's not a shocking new tape, and how the fuck could it possibly show Nixon besieged by Watergate when it happened 8 months before Watergate, you fucking ninnies? And as of this morning, absolutely not one of the learned and intelligentsia from the Education Forum has bothered to correct anybody, anywhere, or correct Carlson. Say, hey, you know he got the dates wrong? And you know Nixon didn't actually say, I know who shot John. You know he said the who shot John thing. No one over there has even bothered as of this morning. All of the great minds at the Education Forum, they're too busy, I don't know, giving Tucker Carlson verbal hickeys over the whole fucking thing. I mean, he's quoting Roger Stone's thing almost verbatim, and he's fucking it up. There is no date given in the Roger Stone 4-paragraph thing for the recording of the tape. It just says that the shocking new tape depicts Nixon increasingly besieged by Watergate. Unless I'm fucking missing something and it's a completely new tape, but it's certainly not a tape that's listed at nixontapes.org where they're all at. They're talking about the same fucking tape of the same conversation, but it's all wrong. And look, they're hijacking. What I'm worried that's going to happen in the end, Rob, is that our cause is going to get hijacked for their ends on that side. Because this whole Nixon-Helms segment from the 19th, you know what it ended up as? It ended up as a really weird defense of disgraced General Michael Flynn. And it turns out to have been a thing to use the example of how the quote-unquote deep state treated Nixon and how they treated Flynn. You know, the QAnon guy, the political ally of Roger Stone. That's where the Tucker Carlson segment ended up. All right? So if you're hitching your wagon or you're trying to hitch our wagon to this crowd, this Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, look, here's the thing. Look what's going on now with those people, with that crowd in Washington. Listeners, dear listeners, listen, look what's going on. And then remember the old adage, if you hire a bunch of clowns, you better expect a fucking clown show. Okay? I mean, you got Leningrad Osanovich up at Poe White Radio. You know, he's calling him Tucker, like they go fucking bass fishing together or something now. You know, these are not the good guys. These people are the antithesis of everything that the Kennedy brothers stood for. Do not lose sight of that. Do not lose sight of that. And to the legal eagle who is deep in the trenches with the new Republican House leadership and, is appearing on Tucker Carlson, I would caution you, sir. What I said before, if you hire clowns, expect a clown show. Well, bruh, if you hang out with clowns, people going to assume that you're in the circus too.
Yeah.
That's it. And you know what? That's all I've got to say about that. This has been...
Oh, well, allow me to retort.
On Quick Hits.
Bravo, sir. Bravo.
I didn't get a little too fired up, did I?
No, not at all.
Good,
Much deserved. Much deserved.
All right. Well, speaking of
sometimes you got to sit straight, man.
Dude, but it's bullshit. I mean, it's just total bullshit. And I can't get over the fact.
They start salivating anytime JFK is mentioned on mainstream media, no matter what is being said of it.
But I can't get over, the repository of great and learned minds at the Education Forum. Nobody's went, wait a minute, June 23rd, no, wait, that's the wrong one. Let me go over here and look. No, that was October 8th. Jefferson Morley did a thing about that 9 years ago. No, none, not a mention. Zip, zero, nada. It's all, oh, Tucker, we love you, Tucker. Oh, my God, dude, I got a little sample. I actually have a little sample. From that, I wonder if he'll be alive tomorrow. His presentation was so strong. Listen to what this twit posted. Listen to what this twit posted. You ready? I'll just be the first to say it. Tucker Carlson did not kill himself.
It's the new Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, fucking twit. Okay, look. Let's get away from all. Let's do madcap and lighthearted. How about some emails? You ready?
I'm ready.
And we've only got about 10 minutes. We've went real long today, so
no.
Choose your emails carefully. Here we go. On Quick Hits, baby.
My bag is very swollen today, Doug.
That happened to me recently. I sat on it.
And people, because it's been very disappointing the past few shows, our email bag, and you have stuffed it completely full this time, people. Thank you. Keep them coming. And again, if you'd like to have your email listened or read on the show and commented on, please send your emails to quickhitsjfk@gmail.com.
Hey, have you ever thought about doing it? We should do another email-only show one day.
Yeah, we can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Send them in, people. Hi, Rob and Doug. I was recently looking into the assassination of Reinhard Heydrich in World War II and noticed the similarities to the JFK assassination. Heydrich was ambushed in a convertible on a hairpin bend in the city of Prague. The hit squad were Czechs who were trained by British SOE Special Forces. SOE commandos later became the SAS. Heydrich was the only high-ranking Nazi official ever assassinated. It happened 20 years before JFK, so the Secret Service, the U.S. Secret Service, should have been aware. In the 40s and 50s, British Army intelligence worked close to U.S. Army intel on the CIA, information, training, etc. Just speculation, but the team who hit JFK could have gotten the idea from the Heydrich hit. Here's a link to a documentary on the assassination of Heydrich. Also see the movie Anthropoid. It's better than JFK. Ha! And he gives a YouTube link. And cheers from Triple Underpants.
Well, thanks for the email, Triple Underpants. I don't know. I'm sure that triangulated crossfire, reaching out and touching someone from far away with a few rifles, is something that's been used a lot. Sounds like something that's kind of a standard deal, probably. I'm sure Heydrich, that guy, Hassenpfeffer, I'm sure he wasn't the first or the last, Yeah,
and I'm sure whoever planned this was well aware of previous successful assassinations. Next up from Ashley Binion. Good day, Doug and Rob. I guess that means she's from down under, Doug.
Well, hello there. By the way, my wife is a big fan of McLeod's Daughters. She's seen the whole series.
Yes.
Australian show. You know that one, Rob?
The Dingo Ate My Baby?
No, that's a different one. It's about a ranch, a ranch in Australia run by hot chicks in hip hugger jeans. And it's not a reality show. It's like a drama. You know, it's like a drama. They're a family of hot female ranchers, and the chick Moira, who had the mechanic shop, she was my favorite. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Says, Good day, Doug and Rob. Firstly, thanks for the 3 podcasts. They are always informal.
You're welcome.
I think she means informative and entertaining, also informal. I have tested many other podcasts regarding the JFK assassination, and for the most part, they are just cringeworthy when compared to yours.
Oh,
you are
man.
correct, Ashley. They are cringeworthy.
That is, Miss Ashley, you just don't know. Saying that right there, that is a compliment. You don't know how that hits me because
yes,
that was a very nice thing to say. That wow, yeah, that's better than a trophy, Rob.
Of the many things I've learned, from listening to you guys, it's that this 10,000-piece jigsaw puzzle that is the JFK assassination, trying to get as close as we can to what actually happened and who the main players were. You have to be fluid and move the pieces in to fit, but more importantly, move the pieces out when they no longer fit, when credible information comes to hand. This is where the majority of researchers, I believe, get it wrong. I feel they arrive at a certain narrative and conclusion and are desperate to stick it out despite information that says it just can't be. You guys are always open to new theories or realistic possibilities, new idea of how things may have transpired, and this will eventually get us closer to completing this puzzle. Hey, we might not get all 10,000 pieces placed to complete it, but I think you are a long way down the road to seeing what the puzzle looks like by eliminating pieces that don't fit. Keep up the great work, boys. I've only just seen you guys over the last year or so I'm playing a lot of catch-up. But I always look forward to the new eps when they drop. For now, from the land of Oz, have a Merry Christmas and a safe New Year. Big fan. Cheers, Ash. Well, thank you, Ash.
Ash, thank you. Welcome to the study group, my lady. Welcome. Good to hear from you. Keep them coming.
Yes. All right, next up. Hey, Doug and Rob.
Hey.
Sorry, it says, hey, Doug and Bob. And then he says, sorry, Rob, couldn't resist. Please know it's a slam at the idiot, not at you. No, I get it. It's all good. I love y'all's show. I know come from the quick mailbag, but wanted to let you know your individual shows as well. Quick hits are all awesome. I've been doing a JFK assassination conspiracy. Oh, no, I've been a JFK for years. He has not been doing one. He is one. Okay. I did our book report in the 7th grade on JFK and wanted to learn more ever since. I requested and got the assignment of doing a research paper on JFK in 10th grade. That's where I really started learning and wanting to know more about his assassination. The paper wasn't well received, and I got an F.
No.
The main reason, 90% of the paper was about the assassination instead of JFK himself. My teacher did allow me to rewrite it over the weekend, and with many changes, did bump my grade up to a C, thankfully allowing me to advance to the 11th grade.
Yeah, if you're coming at it from a lone nut point of view, that's guaranteed at least a B-. But if you come from it from conspiracy, oh, fuck, they're going to hit you.
Anyway, fast forward 35 years to 2021. I was working a temporary warehouse job and was listening to podcasts to help pass 10-hour shifts. And I stumbled upon the Lone Gunman. I went through every podcast from number 1 to current in just 4 weeks. Well, God bless you, sir. By then, Quick Hits was up and going. I've been a loyal listener ever since. I only started the Dallas Action about 4 months ago. I made it up to June 2020, and will continue to listen until I catch up. Also, Doug,
you're almost there, man.
Says, okay, enough. Yeah, enough of the history lesson. On to why I've emailed. I messaged the Lone Gunman on Facebook a couple weeks back, and Rob kindly replied with his list of some top books he'd recommend any researcher to read. I'd like to know your top list, Doug, and also feel this would be a good topic for a show. And just listing 5 to 10 books would be great, but either you giving your listeners the why you like them or a short review would go well, I think. Also, another show idea would be YouTube presenting your hypothetical areas of what happened, who was involved, and how they were able to escape scrutiny. This would probably take a couple or 3 shows to do properly, so maybe a pipe dream on my part. I just enjoy listening to you both discuss those involved and how they played a part in our country's most destiny-altering event. Rob will have some fun with pronouncing my last name, but do look forward to the next show and hope you both have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Best wishes from Angleton. This is Marty M. Finger.
Well, thanks for the email, Marty.
Fingers.
Thanks, buddy.
3 finger size hole. 3 fingers in the hole, Marty.
3 finger Mart. Yeah, that's what they'd call him if he was a gangster. 3 finger Marty. Thank you for the email. Right off the top of my head, someone would have talked by Larry Hancock, Oswald and the CIA by John Newman, Into the Storm by John Newman, The People v. Lee Harvey Oswald by Walt Brown, and The Kennedy Execution by Dr. Walt Brown. Off the top of my head.
Yep, and I already gave you my list, Marty.
Yeah.
And thank you for the show suggestions, but help yourself. Okay, next up. What? Josiah Thompson once said, what? Hello.
What? Huh? Hello.
Josiah Thompson once said, to look at the JFK case, you should see it as 2 or 3 large puzzles, all the pieces in one big box. What if there were several events happening at the same time? What if Ruby killed Oswald, not because rather what he might reveal about his mafia, CIA, military gun running operations? What if Connolly being shot was no accident, but rather a mistake because someone other than Connolly was supposed to be in that seat? What if there were 2 Oswalds, one complicit in setting up the other? Lee escaped in the Rambler and was dropped off at the Beckley address, then ended up at the theater, upper level. He took the cab to 500 North Beckley, went to the El Chico restaurant, didn't find his contact, and then went to the theater, bottom level. Something to think about. What are your thoughts? You guys, great job. Keep up the excellent work. Bill, he says, I can elaborate more to either or both of you offline if it's interested. Meet Bill.
Well, what if Holman Moody Racing had accidentally left a trailered prototype GT40 Le Mans race car in Dallas with the keys in it, and Oswald could have gotten in it instead of getting on the bus and gone 200 miles an hour? Hey, you could play that what-if game all day, man. You know?
Yeah.
What if a midget with a kickstand and a wooden leg had tripped and fallen, you know, in Dealey Plaza before the thing came around the corner? I mean, you could do that all day, you know?
Yeah, and these are many theories that have been kicked around, you know, throughout the year.
Wait, the midget with the wooden leg and the kickstand?
Oswald's and... Well, no.
Oh, okay.
He's saying that Oswald's, you know, Connolly being shot on purpose, you know, and why Ruby killed Oswald. You know, these are all theories that have been kicked around. And you know, I just did a show on the Lone Gunman about Ruby and his gun running activities, and you know, I don't know, I don't see why Ruby would have killed Oswald, because it doesn't seem that Oswald was involved in the gun running activities.
Definitely connected to the assassination. That
you know, when you throw in Oswald and McCown and Ruby and McCown, they kind of get intertwined there. But other than that, you know, it's just speculation.
That's right.
All right, next up.
17,
hey, Robin Doug.
17 minutes and we're on the 3-hour mark.
Okay, you just stopped me. I'm just going to keep on going, trying to plow through these because we got a shit ton of them. All right. This is from Jake Barracuda. Hi, Rob and Doug. I was 15 when I watched Ruby shoot Oswald. Damn, Jake, that makes you what? 90? No, I'm fucking with you. Considering Ruby's options if he failed, are we to believe that there was no additional assistance once Oswald was on his way to Parkland? Most entertaining and informative podcast. Thanks, Jake from Boston, baby.
That's a good question.
Yeah, what if? Well, you know, Doug. I mean, it just seems to me that a shot to the gut is necessarily, it's not necessarily 100% that guy to die from that. You know,
yeah,
if I was Jack Ruby,
though,
I wanted to make sure Oswald killed. Well, still.
Point blank, though, man, that'd do a lot of damage, and that's a lot of time for a lot of internal bleeding.
Yeah, but it also didn't damage his ability to talk. So, shooting him in the gut is one thing. I mean, you could either shoot in the heart or head. If I was Ruby and I wanted to make sure I had one shot to make sure that this guy was going to die, it wouldn't have been in his stomach. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The head, baby. The head.
Yeah. So was there a backup? There is speculation there that Oswald could have survived that had they not delayed his egress to Parkland and performed like chest compressions. It could have exacerbated his injury even more. Who knows from back in the day, with their medical expertise and their knowledge. So was there a backup plan? Maybe, and maybe it was implemented. Who knows? We'll never know. But thank you, Jake from Boston, you old bastard. All right. Next up, from Anthony Thrip. Also from Down Under, baby. Thunder from Down Under.
Hey, yeah, we got some fans down there. That's cool.
Thanks for the free ad a few months back. This is the carpet guy. He said, I had one single inquiry from your mentions. Well, Anthony, here in America, when we want carpet, we call the fucking local carpet guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I could weave. I'm pretty sure I could weave some carpet before his would ship over here. Honestly.
Yeah, we ain't importing it from Australia unless it's made out of the finest mole hair in the world.
Or kangaroo hair.
But
have you ever seen a kangaroo? They look like they fucking lift weights. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
Fuck.
Would not fuck with one.
No.
But we read the ads, because it's not really an ad. It's just an endorsement because she's so nice to email us. But we do have people that listen down there, like Ashley. If she needs carpet, she might call you, dude. So don't bust our balls. He says, I'm waiting for sales to increase in the North American market. He says, all good. It was great to have my email appreciated. The great thing I enjoy about you guys is you don't take yourselves too seriously and you don't spend the podcast talking to yourselves as opposed to John Barber. Wow, this guy talk about himself.
He doesn't know where he is, man. Come on. You ain't got a fucking clue where he's at.
Leno Stanek, he knows how to add some mayo to a story. Even Mark Shaw, who claims he saw just about every case from the 60s. So your modesty and ability to take the Mickey, God damn, take the Mickey is much appreciated. Two observations from the last time on the JFK case. Oswald was definitely not a lone nut. He had numerous contacts and allies, and he had friends in all sorts of high and low places.
Hell yeah.
Jack Ruby was far from a patriot who wanted to help Jackie Kennedy with her grieving process. What's becoming apparent is he was opposite in bed with the Cubans and the mafia, gun running and drugging. It seems the closer we get to the end of the story, the more we will see Ruby's involvement appearing to be a major player before as well as after the assassination. Keep up the fine work, gentlemen. Greeting from Melbourne, Australia. Thanks, Anthony. And Ashley, if you need fucking carpet down under, call Anthony at Quest Carpets.
That's your guy. That's your guy.
He's in Victoria.
What do you call that?
That's close to, huh?
They even put the thing under the carpet that makes it like softer. You know, he's even got some of that stuff. What's it called? Carpet padding. Yes. He's an expert.
Yes.
For real. Everybody listening in Australia, buy carpet from this guy. We want you to. Yes. Yes. But not like orange shag carpeting. Don't get fucked up with it. Get something nice and stylish. Something that's neutral. That'll go with different things and last, right?
Yes, he's in Dandenong, South Victoria.
Easy for you to say.
That is where Anthony is located.
Easy for you to say.
Yes. Dandenong.
Rob, let's do one more email, buddy, and sign off. Because, well, I don't know. We got like 9 minutes. You think we ought to sign off now just in case we run out of time and I didn't time it right?
We plow through some more.
All right. Let's do one more.
Let's go. Let's fucking go. All right. Rob and Doug, first, I would like to thank you for your show's content. You provide insight and new approaches to researching the JFK assassination. Nice to hear fresh outlooks on this clusterfuck of information we've been given over the 60 years. Your shows are both informative and entertaining. I look forward to every episode from the Lone Gunman, Dallas Action, and of course, Hits.
Well, thank you.
Rob, definitely pursue your aspirations of publishing a book. Your short snippet on episode 213 had me hooked. You have something there for sure. I'd buy a copy for sure. So now to some serious business. Lots of good synonyms have been taken, so I'd like to be dubbed AM Penetrate or AM Rager. Thank you all so much. God bless you and Doug. Coke Zero is missing out on not sponsoring you. Fuck them if they can't get a joke. Your pal, Brandon.
Thanks, Brandon.
Yes, thank you, Brandon.
AM Rager.
Brandon Baldrick.
AM Penetrator. Wow.
Yeah. We'll make this the last one. Okay. Hi, quick shitters. Greetings from the sadness that is Brexit Island. Firstly, thanks for all your great work. All 3 podcasts are consistently interesting. Always good to have Bart Camp on. I miss Ed Ledoux. His Oswald Buzz Tax on Foot Amazing Escape episode had me in stitches while demolishing the official narrative. My observations and questions for you. How much do you guys, One Bar Bob and Magnum Dong Doug, follow developments in the major assassinations of RFK, MLK, and MX? I'm surprised that more hasn't been made in RFK research circles for recent developments in the Malcolm X murder. Last year, I was reading some old issues of Willis from the 60s, and there was an article about the then recent trial of 3 guys who had just in prison, and the writer casually mentioned that 2 of them were probably innocent. Fast forward to last year, the 2 men, one now deceased, have been pardoned and compensated. It's my understanding that both men, Norman 3X Butler and Thomas 15X Johnson, were at home at the time of the shooting. They were fitted up by the NYPD and FBI. In light of this, how difficult would it be to frame Oswald or place him somewhere else in the TSD building at the time of the shooting? Pretty easy, I'd imagine. Far easier than placing those 2 guys elsewhere in the city. So as it turns out, the Malcolm X murder was a conspiracy, as we always knew, but additionally, law enforcement at a local and national level conspired to find the wrong people. Convictions that held for 56 years. Secondly, am I correct in thinking that his assassination records, all the films shot in and around the ARRB JFK Act? I will tell you the answer to that is no.
That's right.
At least those shot by major stations like NBC and CBS. You will never get those records. You can't subpoena them, and you can't take them. Finally, if I may, Johnny Brewer said, and somebody hollered, he's got a gun. And there were a couple officers fighting him and taking the gun away from him. And they took the gun from him, and he was fighting, still fighting. And I heard some of the police holler, I don't know who it was, kill the president, yeah. And I saw fists flying, and they were hitting him. Brewer confirmed this in the TV in the trial circa 1986 and the HSCA. Given that they had no reason to suspect Oswald shooting JFK at that time, it seems highly suspect he is correct in what he heard. I will leave it there. My size has gone crazy. Thanks again, Ashley Wood from across the pond.
Ashley Wood. Thank you so much for the letter. The email, as far as your first question about, if I understood correctly, was why I don't do more on Malcolm X, MLK, RFK. It's just a time thing. I don't know I would say, as far as like research into the Malcolm X death and Martin Luther King and RFK, I just don't know as much as I do about it's kind of my chosen niche, Dallas and the Dallas action. So it's just out of not enough time, just haven't really studied it. Don't keep up to date much on.
Yeah, well, we know, the FBI is probably behind Malcolm X's murder.
Yeah.
MLK, it was proved to be a conspiracy. And William Pepper helped the King family too.
And they're
in the 90s.
The Army there's an Army intelligence connection there with the MLK thing. Maybe I do know that much. With the same unit out of Dallas.
And RFK,
I hate to tell
that's
people,
an obvious conspiracy. You can't. And Sirhan was not behind Bobby Kennedy closing the shooting behind his ear and leave powder. And so, to me, those are all obvious conspiracies and not worth spending the time to try to convince people of such that don't already believe that it was a conspiracy, because the information's already out there and well known. But the FK case is much different.
Yeah, it's its own animal, and there's so much more we're trying to untangle. And again, it's not that it doesn't interest me. It's just, this is sort of, I found my niche, and there's only so many hours in a day, Ashley. It's kind of thing there.
True that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the email. Thank you so much.
Got to save time to masturbate.
Well, you got to sleep too, Rob.
Well, yeah, I guess you can sleep after you masturbate.
I normally do.
Yeah.
All right. Well, wow, what a fun, long show this has been. I think we got 4 minutes on the clock, Rob. Hey, thanks, everybody, for their email. And you want to begin to take us out there, Rob?
Sure. Yeah. Again, like your email, read and commented on live. We didn't do them all this time. We will get to them next time, I promise. Send them to quickhitsjfk@gmail.com. Get them in here, folks, and we'll get on it. For everything Lone Gunman Podcast, follow along on Twitter at the Lone Gunman 7, on YouTube. Search for the Lone Gunman Podcast channel and subscribe and like and comment. There's a whole thing going on over there. Crazy. And Facebook. Search for the Lone Gunman Facebook page. And other than that, you can listen to the Lone Gunman and Quick Hits and the Dallas Action just about everywhere fine podcasts listen to. Duh.
Thank you very much, sir. And you can find my show, The Dallas Action, presented by Wall Street Window, virtually everywhere you find quality podcasts, but not YouTube, because fuck YouTube is why. Carefully, critically thought out, detailed, informed, and educated study of the people, places, things, events, and ideas surrounding the assassination of JFK, like this show, another fine quality podcast from Drop D Podcast Productions in the heart of Music Row, ladies and gentlemen, Music City, USA. So, for Rob Clark, this is Doug Campbell saying, inviting you to tune in again next time, guys, when, after making his entrance to the next assassination research conference in Dallas, we'll hear our friend Bart Camp say,
"Fuck you, you're okay, fuck you."
We are out.
Le croissant.